That's what. If you have the correct signage, I want to come in. Okay?
I'm telling you, it's private. I'm telling you, informing you, a police officer's telling you,
regardless,
this is a private area, there's private...
It doesn't state that.
Private vehicles
it
here.
does, no,
okay. There are private
it's public
vehicles.
information.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I've informed you as a police officer, this is a private area, okay?
It doesn't
and
state
I'm
that.
asking you to leave.
If you can show me where it states that.
Okay. I'm telling you.
No, whether or not you tell me, what you tell me does not trump what my legal right is.
Okay. No, I'm asking
okay,
you
and it doesn't trump what my legal right is.
If you remain here, you'll be removed.
Okay, by who?
By myself.
By who?
By myself.
Okay, and I told you, if you touch me, it will be unlawful. Okay.
The confrontation begins with a simple demand for proof. The citizen asks the officer to show the correct signage that marks the area as private. The officer insists it is restricted, but there are no barriers or warning signs in sight. This sparks the core dispute: authority's word versus visible evidence.
Okay, that's why I've just walked back there to double check for signage. You do not have any signage at all that states private.
I'm informing you.
You informing me saying private, okay? I can tell you, okay, I'm the Prime Minister, okay? And it makes no difference what I say, because there's no way of actually backing that up.
I'm telling you, by your presence here, you're creating a breach of the peace. Okay?
I'm not creating that breach of the peace.
For which you can be arrested.
Who approached who? Who approached
your
who?
Presence here
no.
No.
Because
if you
who
here,
approached who?
If you weren't here, I wouldn't.
Well, you don't have to be here.
I do.
No,
you're
you do
you're
not.
In a private police area.
It doesn't state private.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't state private, and it's not a restricted area.
Tension rises when the officer threatens, "If you remain here, you'll be removed." The citizen stands his ground, declaring that any physical contact would be unlawful. In this moment, the clash between individual rights and police orders becomes clear, each side unwilling to back down.
It's not a restricted area because there's no barriers or nothing. Okay, so there is nothing there. So, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm alright, thank you.
Good.
Just let you know I'm recording.
No worries. Thank you very much. Can you just identify yourself properly for me, please?
I can say I'm Richard, PCSO 5992.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. So, why are you up?
I'm just filming a public building.
That's alright, it's fine. Okay.
So, and as I said, okay, all this is publicly accessible. Okay.
Yeah, I understand that. Obviously, you know, it's not a
and that's all what it was. And then this sergeant comes up to me.
A closer look around confirms there are no restricted access signs or gates. The citizen points out that without clear notice, the space remains public. The argument shifts away from personal opinion and focuses instead on the absence of legal proof.
Well, let's see. You can have a look at the letter.
Yeah, please do.
Fine.
Please do, and I'm glad that you did, okay? And it's good that a PCSO has actually taken that up, okay? When you've got an actual sworn constable there, that wouldn't actually take that to actually have a look.
Oh, I can always, you can always read things. I mean,
Yeah, no, by all means. That's why I carry that on me, and that's the reason why the NPCC actually got involved, is because we have the right to actually do this. Okay? And that's why I would say thank you to you for actually taking that and actually having a read of it, and you can see how important it is to actually have.
The dynamic changes when a police community support officer arrives. Calm, polite, and professional, he identifies himself properly. His respectful tone contrasts sharply with the aggressive approach of the sergeant. For the first time, the conversation becomes civil.
Documents like that on us, okay? Yeah, because then when you look at a sergeant such as this, okay, won't even acknowledge that, right, and try to actually make it up.
Yeah, well, obviously, he's obvious. You've got to understand, obviously, with the trying times that we're in,
What trying times are they?
With obviously the, cases of terrorist threats, things like that. Obviously, there's not a big threat right now, but I'm not saying.
So, do you know what the current level is at this moment in time?
Current level. I've read it.
Okay, right. So you don't know what the level is.
Well, no, I'm not saying.
But also, can you tell me when was the last time a police station was actually touched by terrorists?
The citizen presents an official NPCC letter, a document confirming the right to film and access public spaces. The PCSO accepts it and takes time to read it, while the sergeant refuses even to look. This moment highlights two very different attitudes within the same force, one open to facts, the other dismissive.
It's not, okay, because it's general members of the public that will always be hit for the biggest result.
No, I understand that, but it's a case of, you know, I believe, you know, just because it hasn't happened recently, or maybe at all, I don't know. I've not seen any, you know, previous news. You know, obviously you can see I'm quite young, so you know, nothing I know of.
No, but as I said, so far, okay, you've come up to me. You've been very professional. Okay, you could see what I was doing. Okay, I stated, you know who the NPCC are. You said yes. I've shown you that document. Okay, and you're listening and you're being reasonable with the actual conversation. Yeah. Now,
the citizen draws the comparison openly. He praises the PCSO's willingness to listen and engage while criticizing the sergeant for rudeness and for inventing laws. The lesson is obvious. Professionalism earns respect, while hostility only fuels resistance.
You decided to actually come up and actually engage and actually have a face-to-face intelligent conversation. Yeah. Whereas that sergeant came out, was very rude, very aggressive, okay, and making up different laws, okay. Number one, yeah, exactly. You weren't here. You weren't here, exactly. But either way, it's all on camera, and that's why, okay, as a PCSO, okay, I will say thank you for actually looking at that, okay, and for engaging as you should with the members of the public. Okay, so from me, okay, that is a really, really good interaction, and that's how it should be. Okay, not like the sergeant, and if you do.
When the subject of terrorism is raised as a justification, the PCSO admits he doesn't even know the current threat level. The citizen counters firmly that fear cannot be used as a blanket excuse to override lawful rights. This exposes how weak the sergeant's threats truly are.
So if it takes a while to read this.
No. Please take your time. That's why I always carry copies with. That's why I always carry copies with me. Okay, just so people can actually read it. Okay, because I think it's very important to actually show, okay, what they actually put out, and that went out to all police stations. Okay, and it's an official document. Okay, it's been passed all the way down.
Finally, the citizen makes a simple demand, an apology. He states clearly that if the sergeant admits fault, he will leave immediately. After resisting, the sergeant eventually concedes and apologizes. The balance of power shifts, showing that persistence can force accountability.
An interaction should be not aggressive, very rude, okay? And at first he didn't even want to identify himself at first, until I asked. And then when he was actually saying to do with certain law, I asked him to actually tell me the correct law. And if he could have told me that, then I would have actually made my way, if he could have given me a correct law in which to do so. Okay. And that's why I said I will not be threatened by somebody.
Okay. So obviously, I don't know if you actually told me. So like, obviously you've come here to show us there, obviously to come to the police station. What's the reason for that?
With the apology secured, the citizen prepares to leave. He thanks the PCSO for his professionalism and patience, but condemns the sergeant's attempt to intimidate and make up laws. It becomes a reminder that those in authority must themselves remain bound by the law.
It's a public building. No, it's a public building.
Okay.
So, and I film public services.
Okay. So like obviously, you know, it's because it's a police public building. Is that the reason? Would you like go? I'm just, you know, genuinely asking you. Yeah, obviously, you know. Do you like, you know, go to like fire service?
I would go to a fire service.
Yeah.
Okay. But the big difference between yourself and the fire service and an ambulance, okay, is they are there to save lives. Okay. Yep. You as police officers will also do that, but at the same time, your main priority is to actually uphold the law. That is your main priority, first and foremost.
Yeah.
Okay. It's to uphold the law of the land.
As the encounter closes, the citizen reflects on the entire exchange. One officer listened, reasoned, and engaged respectfully. Another bullied, threatened, and resisted the truth. In the end, the law and the rights of the public prevailed. What began as a heated confrontation ends as a lesson. Authority should never trump legality, and standing firm can turn intimidation into accountability.
Yeah, and to protect people, I understand that, and obviously we do save a lot of lives. To be,
I know, as I
quite
said,
honest.
yeah, and as I said, at the moment there's a massive disconnect between the public and the police, okay? And he is the type of officer to why that is there, right? And when you look, that is a bridge that we need to bridge, right? That is what we need to do, right? That gap needs to get closer and closer together. Now, we need a police force, we want a police force, but what we do not want, okay, is we do not want people that make it up, okay, try to intimidate people, okay, and try to threaten that they're going to physically remove them for doing nothing.
The citizen reflects on the encounter, pointing out that he would have left much earlier if the sergeant had not threatened him. Instead, the officer's aggression kept him there longer than necessary. This shows how heavy-handed tactics can backfire, escalating situations that could have ended peacefully.
Except a completely legal activity, okay, that is well within my rights to do so. Right? And that is why, okay? If he had actually come up to me the same way that you did and engaged with me in the same manner in which you did, okay, you can see how calm it is. And this is how all interactions should be. Okay? They should not be the way in which he approached. Not at all. Right? And as I said to you, okay, if you do go on to become a PC and you stay the way that you are, you're going to make a fantastic PC. Okay?
So, you know, obviously, you know,
Holding up the NPCC guidance, the citizen stresses why carrying official documents matters. These papers protect lawful rights and expose officers who attempt to bend or invent laws. By sharing them, the public can keep police accountability in check.
so I didn't see the initial reaction, obviously, you know, but, you know, one thing that I do know is obviously that, you know, if anything, obviously we don't always, you know, it's not that he would look at the person, is obviously the fact that obviously you're here and his job is obviously to look after the welfare of himself and his colleagues as well as the rest of the public.
Yeah, but then what you got to remember is as an actual serving constable or a PCSO, you're still answerable to the public.
Of course.
Okay, and the public is still entitled to actually come round, ask questions, okay, and walk round, okay, police property where it's not a restricted area.
The citizen explains that there is a growing disconnect between the police and the public. He warns that this gap must be bridged if trust is to be restored. Good officers, like the PCSO, can rebuild confidence through respect and dialogue, but aggressive ones only deepen the divide.
Okay, where there's a barrier, okay, that's a restricted area, or where there's signage that actually states no public access and so on and so forth. And when there is not that, I do have the right to actually access wherever, okay, because it's publicly accessible.
Okay. Obviously, you know, the way you got to look at it as well is obviously you got to look at it from sort of a, you know, sort of perspective. Most of the time, I'd say 99.9% of the time, the public don't come down here. They go into the inquiry office to speak to us because that's the norm.
Speaking directly to the young PCSO, the citizen encourages him to continue his respectful approach if he becomes a full constable. He warns that working alongside bad role models could damage his career and harm public trust. It is a moment of mentorship born out of conflict.
Yep.
If you know what I mean, you know, you understand.
Yep.
Obviously, so, you know, I understand obviously, you know, where you are coming from. We're having, you know, perfectly, you know, calm conversation.
Yep.
And
Exactly,
you know, I
as it should be.
appreciate that from you as well. You know, but you know, there's obviously, you know, it's a case of, you know, say he's not here to just flout. He's here to obviously, you know, there's multiple jobs that we have, and one of the jobs that we do have is, like I say, is protecting ourselves as well as everybody else.
Yeah.
So if someone comes down,
Well, can I ask you a question? Do you feel in danger?
I don't right now, no.
Okay.
Which is why I'm here. I mean, you know.
As the encounter comes to an end, the citizen reflects on the whole exchange. One officer listened, reasoned, and engaged respectfully. Another bullied, threatened, and resisted the truth. In the end, the law and the rights of the public prevailed. What began as confrontation ends as a lesson. Authority should never trump legality, and standing firm can turn intimidation into accountability.